Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Wednesday, February 10, 2021. BBC report. Florida town allows Donald Trump to stay at his Mar-a-Lago resort. At a town council meeting on Tuesday, a lawyer for the former president explained that Mr. Trump is a club employee, which means that he abides by a decades-long agreement stating that no one could live at Mar-a-Lago unless they worked there. And so, the lawyer argued, he can remain on the premises. Mr. Trump bought Mar-a-Lago in 1985, and over the years has spent part of his winters there. Upon leaving the White House, he moved in.
Fox report. Professor realizes at end of 2-hour Zoom lecture that he was on mute. A mathematics university professor discovered the hard way that silence isn't always golden. After delivering a Zoom lecture for 2 hours, Professor Dong Wang of National University of Singapore soon realized that none of his students heard a word because his mic had been muted, the local independent news outlet reported. Wang then called for questions from the roughly 20 students who actually stayed connected to the online class throughout the whole thing, and got nothing but crickets.
CNN report. I left Google for a government job. Why more people should do the same. Steve Grove is commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. He was formerly founding director of Google's News Lab and an executive at YouTube. The opinions expressed in this commentary are his own. For federal, state and local governments to make real progress and rebuild trust, the country needs more private citizens to consider joining their ranks. In the same way that military enrollment increased after 9/11 to combat global terrorism, we need more people to enter government service to help tackle the unprecedented challenges we face today.
Deutsche Welle report. European Parliament passes €672.5 billion COVID recovery fund. EU lawmakers approved a €672.5 billion, $815 billion recovery fund on Wednesday to help member states bounce back quicker from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The regulation for the Recovery and Resilience Facility (RRF) was adopted by the European Parliament with 582 votes in favour, 40 against and 69 abstentions. Made up of loans and grants, the RRF is the pillar of the stimulus fund that lawmakers approved in 2020.
Al Jazeera report. Tens of thousands could starve to death in Ethiopia's Tigre. 80% of Ethiopia's conflict-hit Tigray region has been cut off from humanitarian assistance and tens of thousands could starve to death, the Ethiopian Red Cross has warned. The grim assessment on Wednesday came as fighting between Ethiopian and allied forces and those of the now fugitive Tigray government that had dominated political life for nearly 30 years entered its fourth month. 80% of the Tigray is unreachable at this particular time, the president of the Ethiopian Red Cross Society, al-Hathloul, told a news conference, adding that some starvation deaths have already been reported and the figures could climb fast.
CNN report. Man in far-right militant group joined Capitol mob after appearing with Trump ally Roger Stone. An Oath Keeper who appeared to be providing security for political operative Roger Stone on January 6 later joined an angry mob outside the Capitol, according to video and images reviewed by CNN and 4 sources who confirmed his identity. Hours after being seen with Stone outside a Washington hotel, Roberto Menuda was photographed on steps at the eastern side of the Capitol wearing goggles and other equipment.
Al Jazeera report. What is delaying Somalia's elections? As the clock ticked towards 12 a.m. on Monday, young men counted the seconds to midnight before firing a hail of bullets into the calm dark skies over the Somali capital to celebrate the end of President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed's term in office. Rewind 4 years, and young men in Mogadishu were also turning their guns upwards but for the exact opposite reason, to express their joy at Mohamed, popularly known as Farmajo, taking office.
CNN report. Biden announces U.S. will sanction Myanmar's military leaders following coup. President Joe Biden on Wednesday announced that the United States will sanction Myanmar's military leaders after last week's coup in the country. In brief remarks, the president said he had approved a new executive order allowing the United States to immediately sanction the military leaders who directed the coup, their business interests as well as close family members. He said they would identify targets of those sanctions this week.
Fox report. Baltimore State's Attorney Mosby under scrutiny for out-of-town travel as homicides soared. An investigation into state's attorney for Baltimore Marilyn Mosby's travel and expenses showed that she was out of town for 144 days between 2018 and 2019, even as homicides soared in the city. City of Baltimore Inspector General Isabel Mercedes Cummings' investigation found that Mosby, who has been in office since 2015, was physically absent from Baltimore for 85 days to attend 24 out-of-town events and traveled out of town for an additional 59 days over the same time 24-month period.
Fox report. Watch, Florida kindergartner reunites with military mom for the first time since COVID-19 struck. A Florida kindergartner hadn't seen her mom, an active member of the U.S. Navy, since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. That changed Tuesday when the young girl got a sudden surprise visit at the Louise R. Johnson K-8 School of International Studies in Bradenton. The emotional moment when U.S. Navy Chief Yeoman Diana Martin scooped up her daughter for the first time in 10 months was captured on camera.
BBC report. 3 Cubans survive on coconuts for 33 days on uninhabited island. An aircrew was on a routine patrol when it spotted the group frantically waving a makeshift flag on Anguilla Cay. The Cuban nationals told officials they had survived largely on coconuts. One of the crew members involved in the rescue efforts told the BBC he was amazed that they were able to survive for so long. The group was first spotted on the island located between the Florida Keys and Cuba on Monday.
Al Jazeera report. Reddit rally, U.S. regulators subpoena trader, Roaring Kitty. Securities regulators in Massachusetts in the United States have issued a subpoena seeking the testimony of a YouTube streamer who helped drive a surge of interest in GameStop Corp as part of a review of his registration, including his outside business activities, an official said on Wednesday. The Office of the Secretary of the Commonwealth William Galvin issued the subpoena on Monday, looking to hear later this month from Massachusetts financial advisor Keith Gill.
CNN report. Saudi women's rights activist Lujan al-Hathloul released from prison. Lujan al-Hathloul, one of Saudi Arabia's most prominent women's rights campaigners, has been released after more than 1,000 days in prison for what critics have described as politically motivated charges. Hathloul, 31, was arrested in a May 2018 sweep that targeted well-known opponents of the kingdom's since rescinded law barring women from driving. She told her family she had been tortured and sexually abused in prison, allegations Riyadh repeatedly denied, and her detention was condemned by the United Nations and global human rights groups.
Deutsche Welle report. Trump impeachment. Democrats lay out incitement case. Opening arguments in the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump began on Wednesday, with Democrats outlining their case that he is guilty of inciting the mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6. The impeachment managers and Trump's attorneys will each have up to 16 hours, spread out over 2 days, to present their cases. Trump is facing a single charge of incitement of insurrection.
Fox report. Reporter's notebook. Iran analyst sees glimmer of hope in U.S. relations amid terrible economy. During my time working in Iran over a period of years, I found economist Saeed Laylaz to be hospitable and generous, always ready with a soundbite, never one to shy away from work or commentary. That was his reputation among many in the press corps. As street protests heated up in Iran after the disputed 2009 elections that ultimately put former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad back into power, Laylaz was arrested and spent about a year in jail.
Deutsche Welle report. Yulia Navalnaya, Alexei Navalny's wife, in Germany. Yulia Navalnaya, the wife of imprisoned Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, reportedly flew to Germany on Wednesday, the Interfax news agency reports, citing a well-informed source. Navalnaya took a flight from Moscow's Domodedovo airport to Frankfurt, according to the Russian news outlet. In January, Kremlin critic Navalny was arrested upon his return to Moscow after he spent months in Germany recovering from a poisoning attack that he believes was ordered by the Russian government.
BBC report. Death of Honduran student in police custody sparks protests. Police arrested Keila Martinez on Saturday night for allegedly being drunk and breaching the nighttime curfew in place to curb the pandemic. She was taken to a police cell, where a female officer says she was found close to death, suspended from the cell door by her blouse. Police at first said it was suicide, but forensic tests suggest she was killed. Officers took her to hospital, but doctors said that when they examined her, she was already dead.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.